From the beginning of time, humans have always looked towards the sky for inspiration and guidance. There has been a fascination with birds, stars, gods, goddesses, and other entities which seem to exist above us, and for many humans, a strong yearning to travel into space. Man has dreamt of flight since observing space, and now it is time to become the space traveller. The future of space travel requires us to understand from where we came, to see where we are going.
Several thousand years ago, philosophers Mozi and Lu Ban from China were looking to the wind for flight. They invented kites using silk and bamboo, allowing for the later development of communication, measuring distances, testing the wind, and lifting men.
The invention of the kite brought with it the desire to fly. The first known attempts at flight were typically by leaping off towers, known as tower jumping. People in China, India, and Europe first attempted flight this way.
In 1670, Francesco Lana de Tarzi published a book that showed some interesting concepts. The concept of copper foil in a sphere with a vacuum would produce a vacuum airship. This is still not possible with today's materials. Francesco is recognized as the father of aeronautics, melding science and mathematics into aerial navigation.
The Chinese are believed to have developed the first hot air device. The Chinese lantern, using hot air from a candle, can take flight and was first used for signalling. The hot air balloon achieved the first human lift and advanced to what we know of as the Zeppelin.
The first attempts at flight in a heavier-than-air flying machine were made by more than just the Wright brothers. Most attempts failed, however, they were the stepping stones for what was to come later. The oldest airport, College Park, is still in operation today.
Airplanes evolved rapidly through the century, from propeller to helicopter to jet aircraft, and most of that technology is used today.
During the Second World War, Germany developed rockets that could go a limited distance. The basic rocket technology used then is still used today. The space race started with the Soviet Union and the USA in 1957 and led to many developments for the next step, the moon.
The spacecraft assigned as Apollo 11 was the first spacecraft to have landed on the moon. The space shuttle operated at tremendous cost. Burning the fuel proved to be wasteful and dangerous technology. The International Space Station, ISS, is a habitable artificial satellite that was assembled in low Earth orbit in 1998 with the use of the space shuttle. The ISS can often be seen with the naked eye from Earth.
SpaceX, as a private aerospace producer and space transportation services company, was founded in 2002 by Elon Musk with the goal of reducing space transportation costs and enabling the colonization of Mars. SpaceX reuses the first stage of their primary rocket, Falcon 9, by vertical propulsive landings. Although, up to present time, it still uses the rocket fuel burning technology. Mehran Keshe has always said, the time for burning fuels is over, but did we need to start with that technology in the first place?
Ancient cultures have suggested the use of an alternative means of transportation. With reference to possible plasma technology,
you can go to New York from Brussels within 2 to 5 minutes. And most of this 5 minutes is actually landing and getting up.
Mehran Tavakkoli Keshe was born in Iran in 1958. As the son of an X-ray engineer, he was introduced to the world of radiation and nuclear science at a very young age. In 1981, he graduated from Queen Mary, the University of London, as a nuclear engineer specialized in reactor technology system control. At that time, he developed a number of theoretical ideas related to more simple nuclear concepts and their applications. In 2002, he decided to finish the full design of his ideas about nuclear technology. This included the creation and control of gravity and energy by the use of nuclear materials in a clean and safe hydrogen reactor. Mehran Keshe introduced the concept of double magnetic fields to explain the magnetic and gravitational field of Earth.
Unknown by the existing scientific community, he wrote a number of scientific papers in 2004 and sent them for peer review, such as the creation of black holes. When one of the persons performing the peer review used his information in public, he decided to draw back his papers and to concentrate further on building prototypes.
Since the beginning of 2006, several prototypes of dynamic reactors have been built, some specifically designed to create hovering effects, similar to effects seen with magnetic levitation. Basic hovering effects have been achieved. 2007 brought the first flight test with radioactive material, in which the patents describe the process of the field interactions.
The main patent, Gravitational and Energy System, described the initial fundamental aspects of the plasma and uses. This was followed by the supplemental patent, Microplasma Reactors, where further uses and advancements were described. Mr. Keshe found himself in Iran in 2008 and was provided all the resources needed to create the first lift of a plasma reactor managed by the Iranian government. These special rotating gas reactors were used to control the plasma. To bring a deeper understanding, Mr. Keshe released the first book in 2009, The Universal Order of Creation of Matters, which contained many new concepts released to the public. This included the PMTIC plasma magnetic fields, initial fundamental plasma and plasma dilution technology used for space reactors. The plasma technology was further developed and it manifested in weight fluctuation in a controlled environment. 2010 introduced a new state of matter called GANS, an acronym for gas in nanosolid state. The GANS produces fields to be used in the operation of the spaceship. Advanced flight tests were performed in Iran with the guidance of Mr. Keshe and the newly designed systems.
Mr. Keshe tells us you can't bring all the doctors with you in space. Medical research advanced in 2010 and is still being explored daily all around the world. The Keshe Foundation has provided knowledge for dealing with many medical conditions in space.
A great example of plasma technology used for peaceful process is the capturing of the USA drone over Iran in December 2011. This drone was touted as one of the most advanced drones of its day and was caught by Iran using plasma to disrupt the communications. Plasma absorbs fields and the drone uses radio fields for piloting, a natural aspect of the plasma, a barrier of fields.
Book 2, The Structure of the Light, was released in 2011. This book brought forward the understanding of the structure of light as a cylindrical plasma where the light is in possession of all magnetic field strengths. Book 3, The Origin of the Universe, was published later in 2011. Mr. Keshe explained the further operation and interaction of different strengths of the same fields, which then leads to the creation of the universe. These 3 books bring forward a much deeper understanding of the plasma science that is applied worldwide by knowledge seekers and scientists in spaceship research and development.
There were 2 conferences to release the space technology to governments in 2012. The first international presentation in April, Keshe Foundation invited representatives of every country to the first presentation of the plasma technology. The second international presentation in September, Keshe Foundation invited the nations of the world through their ambassadors and their leaders to attend a gathering at the Keshe Foundation Center in Nenove, Belgium.
Space travel requires peace. The implementation of the plasma technology brings greater responsibility. In 2013, Mr. Keshe brought forward the World Peace Treaty. Signing of the peace treaty is a confirmation from yourself to your soul to act correctly in a peaceful manner.
In 2014, knowledge seekers came together from around the world to learn from Mr. Keshe, and many different experiments with reactors were performed, including improving the previously developed reactors to fit with the new knowledge, introduction of nano-coated reactors, multi-core GaN systems. The Spaceship Institute lab experiments were streamed live on the internet for all to see. SSI lab tests with reactors showed strong magnetic field pulses up to 129 Tesla and showed significant weight fluctuations. In December, an experiment was performed using reactors built by knowledge seekers from around the world. Italy, Germany, and Canada were involved in field communication tests. The tests showed that fields can interact with each other no matter the distance or time, resulting in instant communication.
In 2015, developments for space continued with different aspects of the plasma technology, such as in health, energy, and decontamination. In October of 2015, Mr. Keshe taught a popular week-long course called the Blueprint Teachings about how to build the MAGRAV power units. People from all over the world participated with building their own MAGRAV units and teaching others. With the demand of the Keshe Foundation products from all over the world, a new research center and manufacturing opened in Arizona, USA. Many developments of the technology happened in different parts of the world, and Keshe Foundation USA is no exception. John and the team started performing experiments using different sensing tools. These tools allowed the team to visualize the MAGRAV fields and to show others their interactions. With reactor formations showing positive results, partaking in the knowledge together is easier and more joyful than ever. The fun has just begun, says MT Keshe.
Mr. Keshe publicly teaches the space technology through the weekly Knowledge Seekers workshops. Plasma enthusiasts from around the world participate in gathering the knowledge and putting the puzzle together in the space race. All people, irrespective of race, nation or religion, are invited to participate in the exchange of knowledge, thus assisting humanity to live within the ethos of the universe. It is recognized that international cooperation and peace is a prerequisite for mankind to journey into deep space. Individuals and nations are invited to come together in the spirit of collaboration and unity to enable peaceful application and the use of plasma technology for space travel, food, agriculture, energy, transportation, health, and more. We are excited to release the Keshe Foundation Spaceship Blueprint to humanity.
Welcome everyone to the 226th Knowledge Seekers Workshop for Thursday, May 31st, 2018. I'm your host, Rick Crammond, and this is a presentation of the Keshe Foundation Spaceship Institute, and this is a weekly series where knowledge seekers from around the world gather to share their ideas and inventions and seek the guidance and inspiration from Mr. Mayran T. Keshe, who is the founder of the Keshe Foundation. And he is once again available for us to listen to here. And as he has been in the last 225 Knowledge Seekers workshops in a row, I might add. Mr. Keshe, are you ready to go for today?
Yes, good morning, good day to you as usual. Wherever and whenever you listen to these teachings. This is interesting and getting exciting in how different groups of Keshe Foundation are coming up with different applications of the technology. It is what we expected to be and how the process will go on. A lot of people came here, as I said before, for different reasons, to learn, to add to the knowledge. And in so many ways, um, past more or less 6 months, especially past 4 months of teaching, is very narrowed down to a specific way that those who are here for materialistic gain find no room or no pleasure. The way they were here to find out free energy, as they called it, and everything else. And now it's becoming to the cores of people who actually want to be part of the uh, use of the technology for peace and development of the technology for understanding, better understanding. Uh, it's important that we go back into some of the basic structures, some of the teachings, because in a very near future, a lot of us will go and need to understand these things. It's been read and it's been talked about, but in reality never understood, because it has a lot of implication applications now that the space technology is opening up. One of these is, as we saw in the introduction tape, it talks about the light in the second book, that um, mankind has seen the light as a time to work. Mankind has not seen the light as a source of energy and understanding of a lot of structures. In the world of science, we have the concepts, especially in world of physics, is light a particle? Because sometimes it shows itself as particle, but sometimes it behaves as a wave, it behaves as a photon, not just a light. There is nothing else, it's just energy. But in fact, if you go back to the teachings of what we have done, the light is always energy. Because now that we know the light is a plasma, so the light has two characteristics at the same time, which is one is gravitational and one is magnetical. One is pulling towards itself inside, and one is direction of the motion of it, which allows it to behave as a source. So this plasma itself, when it hits entity being the body, that's why we feel the heat from the sun when we go under it. When it hits us, when it touches our skin, is the transfer of the magnetic field energy balance between the two, which our body, doesn't matter where we absorb, it gets touched by. So in understanding where the energy comes, now we can explain the light as a wave, as a particle, because depends how much energy and which part of the, what we call the central energy of it, is touching us, and in how much of it we absorb, and how much of it, in what condition, create field force. It has a effective force on it. At the point of its creation, the light in the upper atmosphere, it's balanced between the gravitational magnetic field of the four forces as we discussed before. And whatever these field forces have created has still attraction to all four field forces. And if the position of the gravitational magnetic field of the earth is weaker than the light particle or gravitational magnetic field, in trying to give its energy to the central core, it creates its motion in the direction of the planet. And with it, it brings that energy, extra energy, as it's a plasma. This, in the space technology development internally in a spaceship, has fundamental application and implications. Because in the space reactors which you are creating, you have your, what we call the 3 reactors, and these kind of field motion which leads to creation of light is constant. Which reactor creates which energy in which direction, that their interaction leads to creation of light. Many of you, when you fly in the spaceship and when you built it and you travel in it, you'll have a big problem most of the time till we come up and we mutate towards it. And that is a vast amount of energy as light inside the spaceship. And it's natural. You're operating on a normal system as the universal system. So the fields interact continuously. You have interaction. You have your um, what are called rotating cores. So one of the first things we learn in the space is light, intensity of it. One of the first things we will see when we break these magnetic fields from the top, if you understood the process of the star formation, is actually what it is: creation of one sun, but replacing the planet with 3 reactors. Massive repulsion of energy from the top and absorption towards the bottom, the sun, and 3 earth. And in that process you create massive amount of field interactions. This light inside the system will mutate the body of the man. It's inevitable. At the same time, when you release such amount of light, you have one thing else which will happen to you too. This is the interaction of the fields, which in conjunction with the totality of the balance of the other fields will give you your spaceship silver color. Painting with paint the outer spaces of the spaceship is impossibility, because it's got tangibility of fields, not tangibility of the physicality as we are used to it, even though it's got a physical condition. You cannot put a flag of a nation on it. You can still do with the specific ways, but you can't stick it on. It's a dynamic skin. So what becomes important is then some of these fields which is gathered internally in interaction with the environment will give you the creation of the light. Most of you who start testing, like in Arizona, you are lost at this point. And I can see it, you're lost, but I want to see how you walk out of this, because it's important to see how you find your way out. You have created a field, but you cannot shrink the field. Your losses is more than your gains. Go back to understanding the structure of the light. Which one you have to squeeze and which one you have to take pressure off. Is it the gravitational side or is it the magnetic side? Don't forget, if you create a condition of fields on this side, then what, how are you going to keep it to the bottom side? Understanding the structure of the light is understanding how you build your spaceship. Book number 1 showed you how to make the fuel. Book number 2 tells you how to build the structure. Now, those of you who read the book, go back and read the book again in the light and the eye and understanding of creation of physicality out of the wave or particle. where the light has to behave as a wave, and where it has to behave as a particle, and what would be the effect of it. How can you use this light, this massive amount which is coming out, to create partitions, floors, floors which don't bubble as your reactor does, it stays constant, walls which don't move, and at the same time creating these walls and floors does not interrupt that suddenly one of your passengers becomes invisible. The understanding now moves into book number 2. How do we structure the light? That by structuring the light, we create visibility, visibility and tangibility. You have the fuel, but now how do you release the fuel to create that light? The game has changed. The game moves up one step up, and we'll see less and less people around the foundation, because this part they did not expect. They wanted the spaceship and jump in it. Now they have to understand what they're jumping in and how they can be done. And this is nice. You got to understand the totality of the space program. And when now you start understanding the structure of the light, we move to the next book, book number 3. The creation of the origin of the universe. Because in understanding how to use the fuel and how to use the light, you create your own universe. Because inside that universe you create, everything else which happens in a bigger universe applies, and you have to understand to be able to handle. You don't want the child crawling from one room to another and the mother can't find it, but the child is there, because of field variation. You don't want you leave a cup of tea on the table and next minute it's not there, because the field move, now the cup is there but you don't see it. Now we move to light. We move into transportation of the fields at higher order than just GANs. We move into understanding of transportation of fields, not collection of. We collected enough, we call them all sorts of ganses. We know they come out, and now how do we attract one to another? How do we structure the process that attracts one to another? Sun and 3 planets. You can use it as sun, or you can use it as central line, where this becomes the central line of universe, but has a beginning and an end. You have to decide how you play with the fields of this light to diverge and converge. You have to look at it. There is a third dimension to it in the back. Understanding of change of gravitational fields is important. Understanding the magnetical and gravitational changes is important. And then you understand that how you transport the fields, what we call the light, starts and begins the game of space. Because if you understood how the light travels from this point to this point, now when you put this collectively together and you call it your spaceship, and you understand how you created the spaceship, then now your spaceship becomes between you and the point of destination. And then if you understand this in a deeper way, it becomes one thing. Your spaceship has become that light, moving from one point to another. How you play with gravitational magnetic field inside this system as a light, as a property of light, decides your speed, decides the direction of approach, decides the intensity of approach. Then one thing is for sure: speed of universe is the new game. Because the light on this planet has its own strength of manifestation. It's not the light of universe. When the man comes wise, he will see new things, understands new dimensions, and understands that game of space is not the speed of light of the man in the matter state. Universe has its own light strength, or what we call, you call speed of light, we call the speed of the travel of the field in the universe. It's totally different. And if you understand it, you can relate to its destination and its departure. The speed of the travel at the universal speed is millions of times bigger than, faster than what man can imagine. Because now you carry a spectrum of fields, and then you work in the dimension of the universal speed beyond the boundary of the earth condition. The speed of light under this is what the earth gravitational magnetic field decides. The speed of light in the universe is not what the man has made it to be. There is no limit. Depends on your strength, and depends on what strength gravitational magnetical you produce. Man has got to understand this, otherwise he'll fail in creation of his spaceship. We have to move in understanding more towards behavior of fields from our cores to each other than how we load up what we load. The space fuel for the new generation of the space reactors has never been introduced. That's why many of you have a problem. You might create a lift, but cannot create physicality. It's a different ball game. As one of the knowledge seekers wrote to me, "You're not teaching everything, are you? You're afraid of human race." I'm not afraid of anything, because you don't understand yet, so I spoon feed you till you recover that you can walk. Then you can eat everything you like. So with this process, understanding the definition and separation of the light from the source, because one thing which is never understood, and a lot of you overlooked, once the four field forces of the planet and the sun interact and create a plasma, now this plasma is an entity on its own and makes its own decision. Nothing to do with what Earth is doing or the sun has done. Now is a closed cluster. It decides it's a space travel. If it is stronger in gravitational magnetic in one way or the other, but the law of physics, stronger feeds the weaker. And in trying to feed, it moves into and directed towards. And that's why it comes to feed so fast that it creates balance. It leaves residual as light, as we see, in interaction with the field of the Earth itself. When we look at the space pictures of the Earth, we don't see the light coming up that way. We see Earth as a shining ball around itself. That's where this property comes in. That structure dictates by itself the shape of the planet, the shielding of the planet, the position of the planet. And then, now you understand, the spaceship is no different. Go back and read book number 2 with an eye of the travel, not in the eye of light. Understand the concept, not copy the pages. You can squeeze it and you can release it. You create condition of fields as you like. It's you who decides this much or this much. Because you decide what fields you release into and in direction of the flight. Don't forget, shielding is the structure of the plasma in both directions. If it was all light, us in a space will not see the light of the Earth. It would have been a black thing because he absorbs. So, in reality, that interaction and interaction with the fields of what's going down creates some fields which shows the presence of it. If you understand this, then you understand you can create directional motion shielding. That your field, your reactors, and your spaceship never ever touches or is in danger with what happens outside. As I always explained, this is the difference between a plane and a spaceship. In a plane, you have your head, you have your wings, and you have your tail. And what you get is just smoke in the back. So the front of the plane is here. In the space technology, with the protection, your system is here. Two different concepts, two different things. Here, you fly with this on the seat of your pants, hopefully nothing hits you. Here, you're so safe, nothing can penetrate you. You have to understand the structure of the light. How much light you put out and what gravitational field forces that is interaction with the fields of the universe gives you a shielding. On Earth it's very easy to create this shielding. In the space of universe it's not. Because there is a fact in deep space is that there are many, 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 many fields around. So if you are not careful, your fields will look something like this, depending on who's pulling. And this is what you do not want. You don't want suddenly hitting a space without protection. Or the waves of the fields which put pressure on that it can deform the shape and the structure of your spaceship. Then you understand, in constructing your spaceship, you have to create a field level that is above the totality of the universal magnetic gravitational fields, that it can stand any wave field forces anywhere. Otherwise, suddenly you walk in a hot bath and the sugar disappears. Now, many of you understand why your spaceships does not make shape. Their star formations has a trouble. Till you don't do these test trials, till you don't do these elevations of understanding of the totality, you have a problem with flying. Your spaceship sits there, but the point of your first reactor, in conjunction with the other reactors, moves ahead of you. So you always travel into chasing a tail, like a dog chasing its tail. You have to move, as you were doing here, while holding the center of gravitational field force of the imaginary core. You have to create another one in front of you. That not only becomes your shield, but it comes a point that this trying to catch up moves you at the highest speed into its position. Your strength in the center has to be so much higher that the secondary field you create lower, trying to feed the same process as the light, it creates a motion. You don't need a position of a moon or a star to travel into. You can come here because you create your point to go there, travel there, and if you like, travel to there. You don't need to understand the process of central gravitational field forces. You are in the ocean of the fields of the universe. And this process to create the positioning is what you see in most of the UFOs which we see on this planet. They suddenly take off. Because they have this imaginary point, what we call a free plasma. Now they create a new one in any direction they like. So this tries to catch up. But you have to understand how you bring the fields to be ahead. This process has been added into the Chinese space system, but not in public. I have taught one of my closest students how it works. The knowledge has been shared, but in time it will be released. We do not need moon to take off from Earth. We create our own moon, any position in the universe. And the speed of travel is the ratio, the difference between the strength in the center and the point we create. So, you don't need to look for somewhere to go. You decide where you go. You have full control. At the same time, due to the way you structure it, you can create multi layers of different shield strength. When you decide on the space travel, you have to be collectively understanding the totality of the space work. You cannot be off your guard for 1 second. You have to understand the ratio of your fields, you have to understand the ratio of your fuel, you have to understand the ratio of the fields in your craft in respect to its environment which is traveling. You cannot have the behavior of traveling in the water as you have going through a solid wall. You cannot create the same condition behavior if you are in a massive plasma environment of a very high order in the center of the galaxy or towards the center of the universe than what you do on the edge of the universe or the edge of the galaxies. In the past, many spaceships have been lost due to the mistake of captain, and happened to human race. Understand how. This is part of the space light travel, and you have to understand when you program or you decide your flights. You remember, you have a thing called the sun. If the distance from the sun is to its boundary is long enough that the field can reduce in strength, you start creating particles. We call it planetary. And in many cases, the pilots make a mistake, is that they do not allow these particles to return as light, but by mistake it becomes a stone bullet shotgun to its own planet, its own surface. Because the pilot is not aware that in respect to the environment, he has created a field that the reduction in the strength is faster than what he calculated. So in a way he stones himself. And as he hasn't created the second shield for it, it destroys itself. The space technology has to be understood in its totality, not just trying to take off and move. It has to be on the field strength and understanding the transportation of the field, which now here as a spaceship you are in a matter state. Now you behave as a wave, as a light, and then you become to another point, which is the creation of your manifestation of your that point. Book 1, book 2, book 3. Because when you arrive, you become the origin of the life, origin of the sun structure where you can. And in the time, as many people have done in the past, you come to space, you enjoy the scenery, you create your own planet. Many of the stars you see in the sky and you say it's a star, that a spaceship which have made this condition. Because the view is good. You want to go from, let's say, London to Lake District, you just don't go. You see a nice scenery, it's a beautiful mountain, hill, the ship's on there and everything else. You take a break, I stop here, I like the view. I put a tent up, I open the caravan. Now your caravan is your spaceship. In this point, I see beautiful things in the space, I want to stop. This is the privilege to create your own dimension. The same applies with the soul of the man. The structure from now on is in the hand of the man itself. The possibilities are infinite. Now you have to understand the whole proposition. If you understood this part, then you even understand how you can create materials for yourself in the space as you need. Then, if you understood this, go back to the teaching. You remember the surrounding, the reactors on the edge. This field strength and this field strength gives you copper. This and this gives you oxygen. Look at here, it's the same thing. Now you dictate the position. Nothing has changed in the knowledge. The only thing changes is our comprehension. And then the application of the knowledge. Then is the extension of the knowledge. How much you can extend it? How can you play with the fields? We know, we are aware, many scientific organizations are working around the new technology. Many world scientists, governments are working around this technology, but they don't understand it. Because you all look in one direction. You don't want to understand the totality. I gather GANs. Now I create a GANs in a direction, in motion. I don't need to energy up every time. I know how to squeeze my fields that I imitate center of universe to travel into, or I imitate hydrogen that are much stronger, so I increase my path, the speed of motion. And if you can, in the long term understanding, create the condition in your reactors, in the space reactors, in your plasma free space, the condition of the plasma of the central original mother, you travel at much, much higher speed. Because this is so much stronger, and this is so much weaker, or this is so much weaker, stronger, and this is the weaker. Would you like to go this way, or would you like to go that way? That is the field motion. Because then you change direction. Position and understanding of the structure of the light as an energy or a photon or as a particle is the key to understanding of the travel of the future from now. Any questions?
Hello, Mr. Keshe.
Yes.
It's Lisa here from Australia. I wonder if I could ask you about the squeezing of the fields now.
Yes. As I said to you before, your Earth counselors are getting too cheeky with it.
We're busy playing, so we've created our star formation, but I'm sort of made it big enough that we can sit inside there. So we've got a star formation just with zinc and CO2. Zinc in the inner cores and CO2 in the outer cores, and in a star formation pattern, and obviously each one is loaded a bit differently. But now we love our tubes. We love our little liquid plasma tubes because we've played with them many times doing things for agriculture. So we've created some tubes and put them around the outside of the star formation. And it seems to, with a very highly gravitational in the tubes, and this seems to have strengthened the fields of the total the fields are stronger inside and they're stronger outside. And so I'm just trying to understand whether I'm pulling or I'm pushing or I'm squeezing and which direction I'm going, because it seems to be that the fields are much stronger inside, but also are spreading out much further.
You are doing both. The way, let me explain, and then you will see if I'm correct. You have made yourself your star formation, correct?
Yes.
Then you have placed
like rings, like Gans tubes around the whole thing.
around
No, not like that. Actually, enclosing the star formation. So they're actually big giant tubes.
If this is your star formation, where have you put the tubes then?
Okay, so the star formation is like the top one is above a chair, for example, and the three are on the floor. Now, we've actually made the tubes big enough, like giant hoops, and they come right around, so that they're rings, and they're sitting 9 rings from your
like
head,
this?
not sideways, the other direction, horizontal. Yes, like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dr. Rodriguez has done this. I've seen that.
He's done it with the tubes inside the star formation. The star formation sits on the outside, whereas this way I wanted to do the tubes on the outside.
Wait. So this is your star formation. I'm a slow man, I'm getting too old and everything gets so slow. So now you have this.
Yes.
Okay.
But it's different from when the tubes are inside, because we've tried that and it feels different. It's not as strong when the tubes run inside the formation.
Mm-hmm.
So the outside seems to squeeze the fields into the center, but then throw them out. And
No,
I suppose it depends on the loading.
Depends what you have. You have a zinc and copper, am I correct? Or CH2?
It's the zinc and CO2 in the balls, and then the rings are actually loaded with CO2, zinc, gold, and silver.
Oh, you're rich people.
Well, it doesn't take much to make a bit of Gans. You get lots from very little.
You got CO2, zinc, silver, and gold.
Yeah.
So this is why you feel much more pressure inside and much more pressure outside. Stronger field.
Yes.
Yeah, this is understandable, right? You're not squeezing it. In a way, your body contains silver and gold, and now you're interacting with the silver and gold gas, so the pressure is inside. When you're outside, you feel it, you still carry zinc and gold. You still interact with it that way.
Yes.
So this is a very good point for John in Arizona. So this is because of the combination of the plasma ratio. Because when you got a GANS mixture, does not look at the gold or silver. In a plasma mixture, as you go in, you take different strength levels. And before, in your GANS of zinc and copper, you're here. Now with the zinc, silver and gold, you're here. So you're playing with the stronger fields. You're going into the center of the plasma. In a way, as I draw all the time, yeah, you had a zinc and copper here, separate them. You have zinc and copper here. So the collective field strength is somewhere here, for example. Now you added silver and gold. You added silver and you added gold. If I can find that for you, gold. Sorry, those of you who love the gold of the color, I don't have, it's black. So now you have a combination of the four. You have actually not operating somewhere at this strength.
And I forgot I added a bit of folic acid as well.
Why folic acid?
Because I just thought that we might need a bit of the potassium.
Oh, you're planning to get pregnant by any chance?
No, long past that.
You never know with this technology. 300 years, 400 years. Oh, you'll be amazed. We have a grandfathers that become fathers at the age of 200, 300. We will see. So this is why you're feeling more stronger fields, because you have moved the precursor from here. If you look at it, if I can get a color that I don't use, you have moved from the here to here, because it's not a material load, it's a field loading. It's the ratio of the load and how fast. This is what is written in the writing of Baha'u'llah, transmutation of elements. Is the transmutation of element comes by what you feel force out of the matter, or what you feel take out of the matter. This way you go to gold, this way you come to hydrogen. So in this field you have created, it's the same fields, it's where you want to cut into it, but you've been cutting it here before, now you're cutting it here.
So I'm just adding 2. I'm not squeezing.
No, you're adding 2, but in a way you can squeeze it if you know what to do, because if you make a system here which is lighter in strength, these will start feeding it.
So just some CH3.
Oh, hold some things, it depends what part of the body you sit or what you want to hold, you can do. We are running some tests in the background about these things at the moment.
Sorry?
Carry on.
No, what's quite interesting is when you sit in here and then you place like a ball of CH3 under the chair in the center of the star formation at the bottom. You can feel the energy shoot up towards your head. When you put a CH3 ball on top of the top reactor, you can feel the energy push down from your head downwards. So you can actually play with the center of the field, sort of pushing the energy up and down in the middle of that formation.
But so what you have created is a transfer of the energy. It'll be very interesting not to use any copper, especially copper. Do not use any copper in these kind of tests.
Okay, so the balls, the inner balls should not be the copper balls. Must I use the
make sure you don't use copper, because copper is a constituent of the physicality of the muscle tissue.
Okay.
Zinc is through the emotion, and that's one of the reasons you feel the flow with it, because you have that zinc in and it's connected to your definitely to nerve system. It will be interesting if you move the zinc out of the combination and see how does it feel.
I just know with the gold, funnily enough, the gold makes everybody that feels the gold gans happy. They all start smiling. As soon as the gold comes along, they start smiling.
Well, you do actually tell them the gold is there?
No, I do it on purpose to not tell them what's there. I say, okay, now I'm adding this, and they start smiling. I just put a tube there, and they don't know what it is, and they just say, "Oh, this is so nice. It makes me smile. I'm happy."
Is this why man finds comfort with gold?
Oh.
What happens when you show them silver?
Actually, I haven't tried the silver on its own, because what I had done was that when I created one of my gold ganses, I'd actually hung it with silver wire. And so I had a combination of gold and silver gans, and that's the one I've been using. I haven't my plain gold. I haven't gotten plain silver as yet.
Very interesting. You see, this is the beauty of foundation counselors that are hands-on. They can talk and do it. Now, you've got to come up with a system to see if you can stretch it to another point. Make 2 of them and let 2 people sit in each. And see if you can transfer emotion of one to another. Not far from each other.
Okay.
And see if with this structure you can change or bring into position transfer of emotion. Give me up a Scotty, but through my soul.
Thanks, Mr. Keshe.
Thank you very much. That's very nice. Would you like to join the research center somewhere?
For sure. Love to. We're fiddling all the time here and finding lots of different interesting things. Many more that I haven't said here.
So now we know how to make happy people. We just put the gold gans in there. You know how to make a sad people?
No, I haven't gotten that right yet. Only when I shout and scream, maybe.
You take away their gold gans.
The lead, if you use lead, brings depression and sadness because of the structure of its plasma.
Okay.
Never touch lead at all, anywhere. Keep away.
I've never made a lead gans, no.
Never do.
Many people have reported that. That seems to be true, yes.
Yeah, lead is one of the most dangerous things to play with. It's a structure. If you bring lead on the screen from, what do you call it, Wikipedia, you can see it. And then you see why, and if you bring gold, you can see why. But you have to look at the structure of the zinc in relation to both, and connection of the carbon.
That up now, Mr. Keshe.
Please, if you could. And if you could put zinc and you could put a gold next to it, and then you will see. Can you open it up?
Yeah.
You see the structure of the zinc, lead. If you open it up, please. No, on the picture, on the right hand side, the columns on the right hand side. If you look at it, what says what is lead? The atomic mass, atomic weight, and what does it tell you? Can you go up? I don't see it there. Up. Okay, just open. Can you read it?
Something has changed here.
It's not
there.
lead.
Yeah. We're back to lead here.
Too heavy.
Something, it somehow got into the next element. Okay, so...
Okay, its atomic weight is 207. Yeah?
Yeah.
Now, if you can bring gold, then let's look at the atomic weight of gold.
Okay. Let's do it.
Can you put them next to each other?
Okay, let me get a separate window here. differently. Just bear with me a minute here. Okay.
And then if you can bring the atomic gold, the weight of zinc.
Zinc as well, okay.
Yeah, please. Because these affect the emotion.
Okay, now I'll get another window with zinc.
I put a periodic table in chat there for you, Rick.
Periodic table?
The Wikipedia is the best one.
You want a periodic table as well, or just
no,
separate?
just the three. It's good enough.
Okay, and we have zinc here.
Which is...
Oops, just a second here. There. At 65.
65. Yeah. You have 207. And you have 196. If you look at the plasma weight and mass and consider at this ratio about 30%, 25% due to the structure of the plasmatic fields, not considering the inertial mass of the atomic structure. Zinc is round on about 50, 55. The gold working around about the same structure, 196. And then you work on the lead, you'll see a ratio connection in some isotopes of the plasma. The difference is only 10, but if you look at the atomic number of the electrons and protons presence, it moves. Can you go down, please? Can you go the other way? Can you go the other way? If you look at the number of the neutrons in all three, because overall most of the energy difference, balance difference in atomic weight comes by the neutrons. And when you have a bigger structure like lead, the difference is very, very, very little, but a huge difference those little elements of neutron make into the structure. You got to see the lead gives huge amount of energy compared by mass ratio, that in some of its isotopes, it's not all the leads. When we have a lead, we convert lead. Some of its isotopes are balanced in ratio to the, what do you call it, to zinc, which is a neuro connection, and some of it are the same with the gold. But with the gold, we don't have that much ratio difference. It's very, very little. But the neural system can digest it, can accept it through the connection of the CO2. Some of the lead is not that it takes energy, it gives so much that it allows the neural system to give more. Because some of the lead, if you look at the upper end of the lead isotopes, go to levels that the zinc cannot be a giver. The zinc becomes a taker, but at the same time it gives more in the magnetical level, and then that creates a lack of energy. You still have the same. If you look at the isotopes, if you go to the isotopes of the zinc on the upper level, and then you go to the lower level, and then look at the upper level of the lead or gold, the ratio when the system becomes more or less, it gives a lot in the magnetical, but takes more in gravitation, and now he has to give more in magnetical, and this brings depression. But this is why in some cases we see, if you change like we noticed this some times ago, when you have the Russian gold, it gives you different behavior than when you have the European gold. Russian gold is much red. This has a different content, and that creates different anxiety. Where the European gold does not do that. If you bring the mixture of the Russian gold, you see it has elements which touch the nerve, touch the zinc acid level. There is some little amount of mixture in it that does. And there is some research done years ago with those in Russia, which was fashionable to have gold tooth. They used to get a gold tooth cover on it. The behavior changes. The type of gold we use as gold rings gives a different emotional feeling. That's why we get attached to our wedding rings, most of us in the West. Because that ring is very much, if you look, you made the braces, Gans braces on your arms, and you feel the difference. It's the same process. You continuously interact with the field, the blood which goes through, and you get it. You feel different when you wear a gold brace in the Russian mixture than the what do you call it? The European mixture, which is more pure than where they mix it. If you bring the Russian mixed gold and the European mixed gold mixture, it says 18 karat or 24 karat, and then look at the Russians, what's the composition, it brings a different behavior texture. This is something we noticed years ago in the development of the plasma technology. And this is part that in space technology, these energies have to be avoided in setting up the structure of the reactors. And then you get aggressive behavior in the space, you get calm behavior. And it totally comes from the neutron structure plasma field strength. As the neutron structure increases, the interaction field behavior changes too. When we go to the plutonium, uranium, we see different conditions. One of the studies which has been done in the nuclear industry, psychological behavior towards them, shows that why people even fear more nuclear. I just mentioned it because they connect with what we call plutonium, uranium in the background of the knowledge of the man, and we give more to them. This is why nuclear material do what they do, and they interfere with our neural system. That's why we see cancers, rapid cancers. We see people who go through a nuclear process create a different behavior. It's all to do with the mass ratio, field the strength of the plasma, not in the matter state. And this, I've studied nuclear interaction, field interaction on human behavior, and it's very, very interesting. And if you listen to some of the talks in a funny way, I say, the people don't fear us as why they fear us as nuclear physicists because of the Fukushima, or what they call Hiroshima, and what we've done. And we have related something which is scientifically interaction of the fields with us. And it affects our zinc line of connection with the CO2, or the, what do you call it, the communication line of the amino acid. In the future, there'll be many, many studies about this behavior or interaction of the field with the zinc of body of the man and the space. Behavior change in races in different parts of the space. This has been observed for a long time, but at the same time, you create the shielding effect in your process of the fuel that protects you from these things. Any conversion to a certain level of the energy is added to or taken off. That phase is not that you create plasmatic filters. You actually do that if you look at it in the waters you drink when you use gases. But now you have to change the water into the field plasma condition. The field transformation of the liquid of the body is at the moment under observation by research centers of the Keshe Foundation. How the dynamic fields affects the, what you call, the acidity or alkalineness, which alkalineness itself affects the emotion. The presence of energies, giving energy is replaces it. That's why we say alkaline, what you call it, waters are good for people not to get cancer or whatever, because they have a process of giving and taking in a balance, where acidic conditions is continuous giving and the body cannot handle it. If you look at it as you go further up in some of the atomic structures of the materials in the plasma condition, they become more and more dangerous for the body of the man to handle. When we go to atomic structures, as I've taught before, at the moment you're in 290s or whatever, we go to 400 and 600. When man goes in deeper space, you'll find new materials, and they give different emotional feeling to man. So we learn to filter it. We have the knowledge, but we ignore it because it's not what you call comprehensible for us. But if you do, for example, if you take your zinc to GaN zinc for slow Raman spectroscopy, it gives you the elements which are called exotic and the ones man will hope to create in the future. But if the Raman spectroscopy machine has detected the field, so it means the existence of the matter. It's just that we haven't managed to convert it from the energy pack into matter state pack. Do it if you do infrared spectroscopy especially. You see it, it gives you a list of exotic materials that will come out of your zinc oxide and CO2s. I think zinc oxide in one of the machines gives you a spectrum of 22 materials, and a few of them are in the range of 300 and 400. And they just give a name for it, this exotic material, not known. I think it's in one of the papers we published. At the bottom of the page, you see when the reading comes out of the infrared spectroscopy, it gives you the name of the materials. We got this from Ghent University when we did it, and it was very interesting for me to understand how do we see these materials. We know they're going to be, and the machine can detect it, but the man doesn't have it, and they call it something in the future we're going to find out. So we already know they are there, but we can't confirm their existence. But the Raman spectroscopy and infrared spectroscopy can confirm their existence, otherwise it wouldn't mention it. space plasma in a direction of field that does not take from the energy of the zinc, will give us joy and happiness, and the ones which can take the zinc, become the provider to them, creates depression, sadness. Then in systems we have to foresee. Now we speak about the speed of light and new universal light strength transportation. Then you can't say I go 1000 times faster the speed of light, and at this light the field property of the plasma in this part of the universe becomes like a lead, and I feel depressed. Would I go 2000 times the speed of light and come up with a new scale of dimensions? We call it 1 kilowatt and kilowatt and megawatt. Now we have to come with a new measurement and dimensions in the speed of light, which man has fixed himself and he has to ignore it. Or in a matter condition, we travel so many times faster than the speed of the matter state. So from now on, we don't call it the speed of light, we call kilolights and megalights and gigalights. And then we travel in that dimension, because then we can produce new strength field that we are in possession of it, we have become the creator of it, and it makes sense. So you can go 1 billion speed of light. So to Einsteinian and Newtonian, these things cannot be. But sorry, stay in the school of thoughts and education, which is so good for last century. Now we move on. We have to add to the knowledge. This is inevitable in the coming time. It's at the beginning of these teachings, the tape, it tells you, I speak about between 3 to 5 minutes from one point to another. This is not achieved or can be achieved by continuous conversion of the curvature, but it's easier to go out and come back in. And you don't target moon. Moon is on the back of the earth. How are you going to target it? You create that point, and then the space ratio, and then in that space ratio you create, you make sure certain fields do not come into operation, that suddenly halfway, half of your passengers become angry, and the other half on the other side are laughing their head off because they're happy. There's a lot to be learned. Secondly, the present computer systems cannot match the development of this technology. The extension into new superconductors, what we call plasma conductors, is inevitable. In the new space test reactors, we do not use wires. There's no use using any wires. You have to use the spacing of the new nano-coated, nanotechnology, space plasma technology. And even then, if you observe, the color of the nanowires changes during the test, because the field pressure on them changes. They absorb different amount of energy. You go higher order. So the top layers get saturated, and then they become dissolved, and very much like the way you release the GANs from the spaces of the nano layer, that will happen to it. Then they create a space gap of the higher energy transportation between your systems. There's a lot to be understood. As I said, now we start a new science of the space technology. The matter state has finished. But at the same time, we live in a matter state. We have to understand the interaction, the composition, the interface, and the interchange between one to another. How we convert one to another. Then what comes to you now, they say, you'll be traveling 1 million times faster the speed of light, and then were you on the way for how long? Now we say it took you to come from this point to, oh, I was on the flight for 12 hours from there to there. The time will come how many seconds you've been in. Does the second goes back when you come back to it? Then you come back to 1 million years before birth of Christ or your birthday because you came back faster? No, you still arrive at the point of the manifestation of the present time. At the time you arrive, you cannot go back to the future and try to say I can go faster. There is no future, there is no time, because it never solidified, it never came together to be there that you can see what you want to see. In time, when the scientists understand the evolution of the process of the soul of the man, then we can go in the soul structure as part of what they call like RNA, and listen to the recording of the past through this dimension of the strength of the soul, which is of the higher order. It was like the way I showed you add the copper and zinc and gold together, you go higher. Then you see in that recording what is left, what energy transformation is left. Now, when it converts to the body of the man in that package, becomes the DNA. And then all the information of it, what you call, carry the color of the eye to everything else. If your RNA can record the color of the eye of your grandfather and gives the mixture between the brown and the blue and it gives you a new color of eye, then it has got all the recording of all the transformation and mutation of the man and all the sounds and everything else. Then we can go back in time in that condition of that soul. Not by looking into space what happened, reverse it. And then if you understand this, goes back to the teachings which we always said. I'll take you back to listen to the voice of the Christ bless his name, or Muhammad bless his name. Because it's there, it's recorded. We'll see the faces as the plasma condition, that then we recognize this is my uncle, this is my grandfather and something else, or this is King blah blah, because it happened for you to see him on the glance on the when he was going from one place to another. The new science will bring new dimensions, and a lot of people will oppose it because now it creates a new dimension into the whole structure of the knowledge of the man. And always with the new knowledge there is opposition, because those who don't want to understand it, don't want to move with it, they oppose it. And it's always all the people who have the influence of the financial and the power, as they call it. As I said very many times, the structure with the people who created wealth out of war and a few years is finishes very soon. We don't fight it. When you introduce new technology where fuel doesn't exist, all the investments of controlling and the wars in the Middle East and God knows everywhere else, because nobody needs the fuel. And then you move into the space of dimension of the transportation, zero time. The present control of the traffic of the whatever has no meaning. Then you have no control over the food. This control over what you call immunization doesn't exist, because now if those of you who become wise enough and be shown in cases, you increase the strength of the field of the bone marrow. You understand the structure of it, so you're already immune, not just from this planet but in the universe. We have to move on, and the moving on starts as of today's teaching, because up to now we got to stop book number 1. Now we are in book, now we are transporting, now we are traveling, now we have to understand the property of the light, the structure of the light. That's why the book number 2 was written. You created the plasma, it releases its fields. Now, is it a photon, is it energy, or is it particle? And you decide, because in the center of it, there is a, what we call principal matter. And it is energy when the source, the what we call the principal matter in strength has given most of it. When it arrives, it has got no more to give. It's just as the last legs of the field. It behaves like a particle, which means at the interaction point is not, it did not release much or absorb a lot. Now it still has some more left. When it comes, there is still something in it. The cup is still full. Don't forget, if you understand the condition of creation of the hydrogen, the energy of the plasma of the light, which is at the hydrogen level, when we arrive to us, hasn't got anything. It's just the last legs because it's weak. But if the structure at the point of creation is at the level of the gold, so when it comes, when it impacts, it still has something in it. We say it behaves like a particle. It's not just energy. Very simple. It depends where you catch the ball and what the speed it hits you. And what the speed was released, and if it's made of a balloon of air or is it made of stone and solid material. That's all the differences. Now we have to understand the knowledge in a much deeper way. The end of the oil monopoly is weeks away, maybe less. The monopoly on the currency and food is weeks away, not years. And you are doing it. The knowledge has been passed on. It's in the hand of the Keshe Foundation. You are too slow. Because as I said, you don't have confidence in what you're doing. When you can deliver a small system that can travel the span of this planet, in a year or two we'll laugh ourselves how we allowed Rothschilds control the fuel and the destiny of man with war. They'll be hunted and haunted. You watch. Because it's not me anymore, it's all of you. You're getting hang of it. We don't need fuel. And all the wars we see created by different groups and things, and the world interest on oil is finished. It's more or less over, but you're not wise enough to see it, because I see how research is coming up. Control on food, control on world population, is over. The biggest enemies of mankind are those who want to control the human race, because what it is 7 billion of us. I was explaining this to one of the knowledge seekers. It's 7 billion of us. Average law will hold 5 billion back on earth. Maybe more. But we have to become Irish. As you know, the biggest export of Ireland is human beings and potatoes. So we have to keep on producing at a higher rate to be able to catch up with the human race which travels into space. What's going to be left? Not much educated people. The ones who are educated but want to stay behind. So we lose huge rate of our population into space, and at the same time those who stay behind with the new knowledge, this planet can support at least 200 to 300 billion. Not 7 billion. And we need that explosion in population, that in 30 years time, the planet is not depleted from human race. And only those who are not educated most probably, or have no intention to live. Those who bring population control, and they're trying to do it with injections and the rest, people will haunt them. They'll be named as most biggest criminals because they do not allow the human race to grow. But they walk away, they're sidelined. We see new political situation, move on. We've seen the countries who are after peace now start talking about sanctions against those who were claiming everything else that everybody else is. It's, as I said, it's the situation where the thief is amongst the people and says shouting thief, thief, catch, but it's actually in there. Now the thieves are getting identified. As I said, the Syrian fire war is the last war man will see. That's our wish and our command. And we support the President Xi and the rest of the governments who support peace. We don't need to war. The time of fighting to show us more powerful is over. The nations who carry the new technologies will dominate through the power of the technology. The old colonial time is over, because the new technologies coming up forces. Cars have no need for fuel. What's going to happen? They were controlling the fuel through oil dominating. Now we don't need. Where is the money which brought so much war? Has to be paid back. It's the evolution. And then when we go to space, what do you want to bring? I want to bring a stone from planet blah blah to sell more here. I can produce it myself. If a lady in a part of Australia can come up and tells us she can feel how what makes somebody happy, and it's just a glance of something, God help our scientists who have still got to catch up with the ladies in the part of the world. The breakthrough knowledge is understanding of knowledge and application of it. And now we're getting there. Now we move into the light structure. We are, from this week, we are working on book number 2. For past 10 years, we worked on book number 1 because we had a lot of people to catch up. Those of you who want to stay tomato, you can keep on book number 1. Start understanding the interaction of the fields, as I explained to Lisa. Make another one. Up to now you have one system and you work on it. How can you see a magnet when you don't have another magnet or a metal with you? The process of the space development is 2. Can you go back on the video of the beginning video where I stand with 2 uranium reactors? If you can go back to it, please, Rick or Flint.
Flint should be able to provide that. Thank you.
The thing is, if you look at this picture, I clearly showed years ago, but nobody looks, nobody understands. You cannot have a flight without the other. In the space system, you create a flight with a point ahead of you. In the original mechanical system, I did not go to fly the heavy reactor. I went to fly the small reactor by ratio mass, because now I created a point of reference with a bigger reactor, because they are both in the atmospheric condition of this planet. I cannot work with a 0 time to go in the ground. So I created a new ground level that I can fly against it. As I said to you before, the uranium flight system is not a big system on the floor. The uranium flight system is the small one on the table. And if you listen to my teachings in the past, I told you many times I was cut myself, damaged myself in Tehran trying to catch this flying ball. In the system, in the plasma technology, as I just explained, your free plasma inside your spaceship is not your flying system, is your point of reference to be the heaviest that you fly into, trying to feed this, the lightest you can travel. You see here, it's very, very simple. I can go on it and you see, this is the new ground level. When I took the system to show to the Americans, we always went with this, because I'm not going to show what flies, do I? This is the seat Lisa sits on. This is the seat she got to make. Now you understand. I'm a very good magician and I put everything right in front of your face, you don't see. Those of you who always try to work with non-structural systems to fly, forget about it. You can be on planet Earth till the Zeus comes here. And I keep on telling you, go back on all the teachings. I've said many times, this unit has damaged me trying. I still got the cuts on my finger. When I look at it, I said, yes, I've done this so many long before, and people are looking for something wrong. If you understand this, it says, goodbye loneliness. And that loneliness is goodbye to oil industry. We are finished. I'm sorry for Rothschilds. You have to bury a lot to understand what's happened to you. You put one of these, as I said, in the center of the car. We show the flying car. You don't need the fuel, do you? You have access. As I showed you, you dictate this way, you go that direction. Dictate this way, you go that direction. You want to side bay, you park yourself there. We don't use 3 reactors, we use 5 reactors. And the shock absorbers, go back and look at the recordings. You're waiting for something. I decide I want to turn. Continuously change of motion or direction with the center more powerful. You want to reverse to the sideline. Oil industry is dead. Man has to move on with a new understanding, new structure. And as I said, now you have to watch the speed of the light between these two entities. This is where you become from matter to transformation of energy to what you want to be. Or you call yourself positioning in gravitational magnetic field and you fly. This dictates this is going to be there. Or this is your free plasma, you create this point and that's where you move into. The space game has changed. The motion game has changed. We had the donkey, we came to fuel, now we work with plasma. And the way I have taught you to make, nobody can dominate any power supply. You make it at home at night, you fly with it in the morning. Unless holding and having a spoon at home and having a wire in the wall becomes a criminal offense, nobody can stop you doing it. I have made man free. And it's man who has to understand how to use the freedom. I thank the Iranian government for this opportunity. 10 years ago, exactly next week is 10 years, I landed in Iran. And even when I did, the Iranian scientists never understood why I made it. I remember one of the Iranian scientists who worked with me says, Mehran, he came here to make this because he was the only scientist more or less understood what I was up to. And he said to me, you came here to make this and you made it. You came here to fly. He understood this was just a point of reference. I love Iranian scientists. They work in the image, and the same with the Chinese, in understanding the way I work. You all looked for this, and you see my finger very clearly shows it. This is the one which flies. You were looking for something else. You create a point of reference, because we are both in gravitational magnetic field of the planet. We cannot do anything. It's there, it's zero, unless you create a new position. Any questions?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Keshe. Brett has had his hand up for quite a while here. Perhaps
Who?
Brett Headley has had
Yeah.
his hand up. Brett, do you want to go ahead?
Kind of gobsmacked by the information today. So my references were back when Mr. Keshe was talking about the neutrons within the structures of the elements that we use in our reactors. And I was thinking the other day that I might have understood, but now I don't think I do understand. But you always said that iodine was part of the process, yes?
What?
Iodine.
Yes.
Okay.
I didn't
So
say it was a conclusion of the people who were working in that field.
is it or isn't iodine important?
They go into the direction of the strength of the emotion, not the soul. And a lot of people spoke about it.
Okay. If you look on the elementary table,
Yeah.
you'll see that if you want to make the strength of lead, that there are all of those components on there which are part of the human body. So if I wanted to make lead, I only need to look at the elementary table, probably the top right area, understanding what we understand. You've got 12, 14, 16, 32, 35.
I think let me explain to you something which has got to be understood. If I was going to write the periodic table, I throw this periodic table out in the bin for the space technology. If you are going to work with the understanding of the space technology, you're better off just to look at the neutron levels.
Yeah.
Because at the end of it, the universe works on the package of the original creation of the original plasma, not on its division. So when you look at the structure of atomic structure of any element, or combination of molecular structure of the elements as a combination plasma, you got to look at the neutron combination and the effect of the neutron balance. And then you work more clearly in the direction of the reality in the space.
And that's why I said that I thought that after today's teaching, everything's thrown out the window. But it's a beautiful thing that you've given me today, because now I'm kind of starting to understand. So now you've given me a better understanding. So I thank you very much, very, very much for today.
You're welcome. The problem or the understanding is, go back in part of the teachings in the past, I refer to neutron. Those who reach the understanding and production of the neutron strength in the world of the science of plasma are those who break through different dimensions of understanding and energy. And I've referred to this in some of the teaching, but people don't understand that electron and proton in division become irrelevant in the structure of the world of the plasma, because the mother is neutron. So when you work in a plasma atomic structure or molecular plasma structure, if you look at the neutron, the strength of the neutron, plasmatic gravitational field of the strength of the neutron on this planet, and then you understand this is the mother. This is very much similar to the field strength of the central line of plasmatic field of the principle. That's where it comes from. And then it divides to two. So our scientists who work with the new plasma technology, in the future as they mature, they move into the neutron levels, not in the plasma of the gans of the matter state. The gans of the neutrons and their strength is the dictation of the moving from one universe into another. Because in the unicos, the same game and the principle of the field interaction dictates. When you can change, in a way, if you look at it, the structure of the light is the structure of a neutron, because now it's independent, it's not dividing to anything. Stays on its own, controls its destiny, and delivers or gets absorbed according to its strength. So if you redefine a neutron and a beam and a light, is the same thing, because it has not divided into subdivision of electron and proton, or being the mother, how it releases energy. So if you understand the relevance and connection, in the future most of our reactors move from plasma reactors into neutron plasma reactors. And we have a stage to go through, which is a crystallization of it, and Chinese scientists have achieved that in the past 2 weeks, but they don't understand it. But this is a time, in maybe a few months or a few years, those of you who understand, you go towards the neutron structure plasma, which is a singularity, and then on the condition of singularity creates crystal condition. One atom mix to cover the whole of the universe, if you decide to create a condition for it. Any other question?
Maria had a question in the Q&A. I'm not sure if she would like to actually speak about it, but I'll ask the question. Maybe she can raise her hand if she's willing to talk there. She says, I have the V2, I think it's version 2, in the star formation. In the middle with bismuth and 1 drop of leaded water. Do I have to throw everything away now? Did the
Please keep away from the lead. Yes. And I don't even know, I usually suggest to people bury 10 meters away somewhere nobody lives. Because lead has an affinity towards the neural system of the man to create a condition as part of its structure to receive energy. It brings exhaustion. With it, it brings like what we call drainage on the energy system of the man. And because its combination is very, very close with the zinc and the CO2 to the structure of what you call some of the isotopes of the oxygen and carbon, with some of the combination of the isotopes of the zinc and oxygen, comes very, very close to lead. Very close. And once that is made, you create a condition of feeding it. If you look at it, you got the zinc of 65. And then you have carbon of 12. That's 67. Sorry, 77. And then you add 16 of oxygen to it. And then you see how you achieve very rapidly into the composition of 103. You go above on the higher strength of the amino acid. If you created the zinc oxide, the mono ZNO, and if you have a what you call presence of H2O, and then you have the presence of CO2, very, very clearly in some of the isotopes combinations of higher and lower order, you match on 207. And then, as I said, birds with birds, and foxes with foxes. You create a magnetic field, gravitational magnetic field of the atomic structure of the lead, and then you communicate. And by order, because you're dynamic, you continuously have a supply, the atomic structure of the lead in the box as a GANS doesn't have the dynamism or presence of a H3 as a CH3 as a sugar bond in the body of the man, so you become a supplier.
She goes on to say, did the field settle into the graphene coating of the spirals? And
yes, it does.
Do I have to bring everything back to the raw state?
How you do it? Yes. More or less, yes. When you have a graphene, you created a space gap storage.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Any other question?
We have someone with a Chinese name, which I don't know, it's in Chinese, with their hand up. I'll allow them to talk. I'm not sure if they need a translator or what that's about, but let's see. Can anybody help with that that's present here now, perhaps?
Well, do they speak English? Or do we need to translate? You got the Chinese translators in the background somewhere?
That's what I'm wondering, if we have someone that can help with that.
Anybody? What does he, can he speak? At least we know if he speaks Chinese or not, or he speaks English.
Well, go ahead and speak. I'm not sure who your name is, but I've allowed you to talk. May not understand what I'm saying even.
Is Ruti in the background?
Yeah, I'm just trying to find her and promote her right now.
Lisa or anybody from Shenzhen Lab online? Is Nathan online? But we don't know if they speak. At least they can speak Chinese that we can ask or understand.
Okay, Ruthie is in now. Can you help us, Ruthie?
Yes.
Do you know who it is?
I don't know which the name is. Where is?
Let me promote them to panelists instead of just giving them talking, and then you can see their name.
Yeah.
Okay, you should be able to see it at the bottom of the list there now.
Bottom of the list.
Yeah, you got to click on the human beings. It gives you numbers on.
can you see the list of panelists?
Yeah, the panelists.
At the
Go to
bottom
the
of the
bottom.
list.
这个叫给予者的，你刚才有举手是要那个有提问题吗？现在瑞克让你提问，如果需要我翻译的话，你就告诉我一下。Yeah, I talk in Chinese to ask him if he has question to ask. 如果你要发言，你可以把自己的麦克点开，可以直接发言。
Have to unmute in order to speak, or I can try to unmute.
Yeah, I told him to unmute himself to speak. 给予者 ，Yeah， 你要发言吗？
Do you know who it is, Ruti? Do you know the name?
No, I'm not so familiar with this name. Maybe he made a mistake to raise hand, because I asked him if he want to talk, he can talk and I can translate.
Trouble with the mute button. And okay, well, let's just leave it for now until they figure out what they want to do there. It may have been an error.
But I have a question. Can I ask a question, Ms. Keshe?
My God, yeah.
Yeah, you mentioned that we have to make this reference point, but I was wondering if we want to fly to the destination, we should change the reference point field strength, or we change the field strength in the flight system.
You change the reference point in a flight system, in the point of reference, not in the flight system. You cannot keep on changing as, what do you call it, as a chameleon, and you lose your boundary. That center stays with the structure, the way you structure your fields in the point of what I call ahead of you. That's where you have to change. You can actually create a condition that you reject yourself from the point and go backwards.
And I'm confusing if we will take this reference point in my flight system, or this reference point just located in the Earth.
No, there is two, which depends which one you call reference point. Your free plasma is always the same. Yeah? Your creation of the point ahead of you, it becomes your reference point of flight to that point. You create, you see, when we were testing in Tehran, it was very easy for me because I'll explain to you in a very simple way. Is this reactor is full of nuclear-based material. So I wanted to fly in this direction, and I knew I want, because I used to mark the ball. So what I do, we open it. If you look, there are a lot of pins here. I open the reactor and I remove certain balls. I deliberately remove certain power, what do you call it, nuclear reactor sources. So this side was weaker, so I knew I have to fly. If you go back to my teachings many times, I refer to dictating the position of the flight, because now I have weakened this side or I strengthen this side, so I go there. I open up, I remove some of the materials on the other side, so I move this way. And I said we could predict which way the ball goes by changing the energy sources inside, ionization field forces. We never touch, more or less, unless we got to go ground, this level. Our purpose wasn't to crash ourselves to the ground. Our purpose was to see what to fly. And I could fly very easily. Now with the new plasma star formation, this is the point of your reference. and you create it through combination of the reactors which you built around the system. The flight system of it, and how you do it, and how you energize your reactors. So this is your point. You change it there. You want to go there halfway, you say, oh no, I don't want to be there. And if you can keep on changing in a way, if you follow the dots, this is a very difficult way. I'll try to go in a different color that you can see. If you follow these dots, you want to start from Tehran and go to Washington on the other side, you just keep on changing this point of reference. But the easiest way is this. You create a point of reference, straight line flight, straight line, because the magnetic field, gravitational field of the Earth atmosphere is irrelevant. You create above it, does not interface with it. So this is much faster than trying to follow.
Is that you mean this reference point is still in the on the Earth, and it's like a
No, it could be
tower?
anywhere. No, it could be anywhere. You create it. The reference point
Yeah.
is this blue one here. You, with your reactors, create that reference point. And then that
That's a free plasma, right?
yes, in the space, not inside your reactor.
So even like I can, if I can use my soul, so I can put it in anywhere in this universe.
Good morning.
Okay, but then the problem comes if
You have
like
a soul.
I
That's
have
the biggest problem.
no, I mean if I have never been to somewhere else, how my soul can tell me where the place I never been to? How to put that reference point?
Then you have to test. Yeah. I've never been to America. I don't know how it's going to be, but I'm going to go there and see.
Yeah. So, from my understanding, is
let me explain something. You brought something beautiful on. I'm going to explain to you. You have to understand.
Oh, that's good.
This is your neutron. This is your reactor. Yeah, this reactor. This is your neutron. By creating another space, you convert yourself to an atom. And how and what distance this electron will have, you call it point of reference, dictates on your speed and the strength and direction of the position. So if you look at it, you go back to the to the books as a system, as a star formation, you start as a neutron. Then you decide, I become a proton, an electron. Then you can even decide, I want to be 2 or 3 protons and electrons. Then I give myself a curvature of move. Before reaching there, I change and I change. This becomes part of the system. But unfortunately, the present computers cannot control such a speed. So you go back to understanding through emotion. And then you have to be a very good captain to be able to do this.
Wow, that's so nice.
Anybody would like to come to planet Zeus?
But then I want to know how my soul can manifest myself in different places at the same time.
You decide. How do you decide? I'm going to enjoy going to a museum, and in which picture I'm going to enjoy, or what movie I go to. You decide. At that point, I want to be here. I want to enjoy what is there. This is what I explained. When a man goes to space, it's a point of maturity by losing his sight of the condition of the vision and using the sight of the soul of the man, we'll see things different. We understand different. The speed is different. It's a conversion point. the physicality, if you understand it very, let's put it as the soul of the man, somewhere in there, the back of the, what do you call it, brain, yeah, somewhere in there is the soul of the man. That soul has given the face, has given the structure according to where it is, and I can continuously change it to make it a move of a finger or whatever. So we already know the knowledge, and we have made a neural connection to it, and we call it the body of the man. But in fact, it sits in our back of our soul. Why do we go and we feel good to live in one part of the world and don't feel to live in another part? Because of the same position, the same condition. If you look, it's the soul which has created the body and the face. I can change that soul, the strength of it, and the face will change. You will not see the body. And then I decide to manifest this soul here, and then I give it a shape and the body I like. It's with the problem with us is we got used to physical motion of our body. We have not got used to physical motion of our soul. We see the body here and we think we got it there, but it's the soul who has decided it wants to manifest itself here. We have to change the point of reference. And then according to where I put the soul, this is where I'm going to be. I create the fixed point. This is the shape of my body, it doesn't matter where it goes. Here is where I want to move the physicality of it with the soul of it. Then I manifest myself here in this shape. Any other question? It's nearly 2.5 hours.
Well,
today's teaching is very tense, if you understood it. Today's teaching is the beginning of a new cycle of teachings of space development. And I think it's time to move.
Marshvek has his hand up here, Mr. Keshe. Maybe we can take a question from him. And the other person that had the Chinese name did manage to open their microphone earlier, but I'm not sure, I didn't hear anything come from them.
Are they still there?
They're still on the list here, yes. Ruthie, do you want to try addressing them again?
Is Ruthie there? Ruthie, are you there still? Ruthie.
Yes, I am. Yeah.
He has managed to open his microphone.
He did earlier, so maybe do you want to try addressing him again to see if he has a question or something you wanted to say, or did he just accidentally open the microphone?
Hello, Ruthie.
Can you ask that, Ruthie, to the person at the bottom of the list?
OK，就是这位举手要发言的这个中国朋友，你可以打开你自己的麦克风，然后提问。
Nope.
Well, we'll put that on hold for later.
By the way, while we're on the Chinese language speaking, would you like to announce it in Chinese, the website of the Keshe Foundation China, please, Ruthie?
哦，OK，就是刚刚先生跟我说，让我来宣布一下有关这个中文的网站的问题。然后非常的感谢深圳团队的努力，还有一些其他的知识寻求者的帮助。我们目前的这个中文网站的部分已经基本完成，等待我们的这个域名。就是转换之后就可以上线，所以我想可能中国的朋友们就可以继续在中文网站下载和学习所有的。
Would you like me to translate it for you? You want to translate it yourself? Ruti. Hello. Can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
Yes, now we can hear you. I said, do you want to translate it or shall I translate it for you?
Yeah, I said prefer you translate for me.
What Ruth says is that the Keshe Foundation Chinese website, which was the new one, is opening from next week. The pages are complete and we were hoping to bring it in today, but next Thursday we'll show the pages of the Keshe Foundation new web page and everybody can refer to it, all the Chinese community. That was good translation.
Oh my God, your Chinese is so good now. And thank you for Nathan's team and all the knowledge seekers who support to do the translation. And thank you a lot.
Thank you very much. Keshe Foundation Shenzhen has moved to a new premises, 1,000 square meter. They just moved in this week. We congratulate them. It's now setting it up the way they want. They've been waiting for a couple of months to come. We closed the old Shenzhen lab because of misconduct, and now the new Shenzhen lab, they just moved in this week. It needs to be done properly, and then it'll become a research teaching center for south of China. And we hopefully will have one in Beijing in a short time coming. Thank you very much for all the Keshe Foundation team, research group, which is about 14, 15 of them in China. Any other question?
Yes, we had Mashfaq with his hand up, so Mashfaq, would you like to go ahead there?
I have a question regarding that point of reference. And we know that birds have an ability to go to the point of origin or their home. And in a way, we also have some of these abilities, may not be as developed. Assuming that we have this ability, can we create such a point of reference with respect to the spacecraft system to get to that point? Let's say I know a place in United States and I want to go there and I create that reference point with respect to the reactor of the spaceship. Is it possible to, how would I transfer my knowledge to the spacecraft?
Yeah, you see when a bird flies, now it's its own GPS in respect, this is a satellite of its own to the 2 points. It still have a point of reference to where it left, and it has a point of reference where it's going to. And that's how he finds his position. So, in a way, what we look, because we are physical people, we look at this as the road. But if this is a tree in Africa and this is a tree in Europe, now the bird is a satellite, continuously point references between the two. It's very simple. Now we understand. And then the direction of the flight sits on its own gravitational magnetic field inside the brain. It's like because the brain has a position in the future, the man of science will find that we have the same. It's very near to the soul of the bird, but it's away enough that the condition of the emotion and the rest of it do not interfere with it. So it uses that shield in that environment for its reference point. And then it's very easy to target. Maybe we have to mature to the condition of the birds and understand this, because once touches the physical condition, then emotion comes into it. This is no emotion, this is an unconditional the position of the two fields. Point of reference, and it flies back on the same route. Doesn't matter what wind flows in, what thing is there, is connected, and this we will have the same when we travel. The problem with the human race is the thing you called Earth. Once we go out of it, the game changes. Now we are another entity on our own in respect to. Up to now we fueled ourselves to run. Now we position ourselves to travel. It's a big difference. And that freedom gives us the freedom of the birds. Where do you want to go and where do you want to see yourself? When you see, or even this at this picture, and some of the reactors you go back to, and then 129 Tesla is all set up by the same structure. There is no difference. If you go one frame back or forth on this, you see the number of reactors on the floor of this is the lab in the Sensano. All these systems you see here, they're all still intact, kept to for the future reference. And those who test these reactors can repeat 129 again and confirm it. Everything here, even a screw and nuts, thanks to a woman called Caroline, is kept. Nothing has been destroyed. All the boards here, all the gas combinations, everything is on the piece of, it's been recorded and is there. It's us now become that bird. And then it's our soul which dictates the position. We've been put on a plane and taken somewhere. We never had to decide to create that condition. What the birds do. That's the why we look at, I explained this before, we look at the birds traveling into different position from one side of the earth to another. What they do it every day, they go to the same feeding run and they come back again. How do they like that? It's just the same, because they are another piece which are independent of any attachment to the planet. That's all. They're a UFO on their own, but they have the shape and they have the control with it. When we become that mature to be able to travel that of the space without Earth connection, then we'll do the same. Most probably a lot of us will do the same with the oncoming space systems. Any other question?
Well, Jalal had his hand up earlier there. Maybe he still had something he wanted to say. I'm not sure if he's able to talk right now. Jalal, do you want to say something there? I think I have to allow you to talk. There, go ahead.
Thank you, Rick. Mr. Keshe. Good day, Mr. Keshe.
Good day, Jalal.
Mr. Keshe, I will explain what Jalal thinking. Jalal thinks that the star formation he can make it with his hands, and he use the energy of the emotion. But the main thing here, how he captured the fields, how he captured the fields in a position. Can he use a balls, nano-coated balls, and capture the field?
If you hold it long enough that it manifests its own center, yes.
Okay. Can he use the help of the maggraph to increase the power of his strength?
Of the ball, you mean, or himself? Yes.
Himself.
Yeah.
Okay.
The thing is, Jalal is thinking very good too fast. Not
This
the
is,
Jalal is speaking, the soul of Jalal.
yes, this is your teaching, Mr. Keshe. Okay. One last question. How he connect the easiest connection between the maggraph and himself? Do he use the amino acid?
You lost the teaching, huh?
No, 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 no. I'm not.
You
Not
gotta go back to school. You gotta go back to school. This is your maggraph system, and this is you. Yeah? To receive, you have to be more humble, to be lower.
okay.
That,
And
do you understand?
yes, yes. Good, Mr. Keshe. Thank you.
You're welcome. We heard something very interesting today, which is very interesting for me, is what we've been asking now apparently is becoming a reality. That many scientists have been working around Keshe Foundation system, and in fact they have not managed to copy it, replicate it. This is the reason. The reason for it is they have not understood the essence of the knowledge. They have just copied the knowledge. And I'm pretty sure in a coming time, very short time, by development of the new space reactors, especially the one which is due to come out of China, we will show a new evolution in the world of the science and the space technology. In that process, what is interesting is how the knowledge will be used for application and implication of the peace. As I said, we stand firm on the path of President Xi to bring the technology that enforces peace. And this process is coming up, and we've seen it, and I heard the news today that there is a consideration to bring sanctions against the United States for breaking rules and agreements. And if that happens, we want to know how the American government will cry and shout. Up to now, they served sanctions as they like to do what they like. It'll be very interesting when the sanctions comes on the United States, how they will cry and shout. I bet you they'll talk about nuclear warheads. This is how they want to threaten. But I give the assurance to the Chinese government and other nations of peaceful nations, the technology to dismantle nuclear warheads is a gift to the Chinese government and the Iranian government. And we stand firm by it. Now, the true science counts and shows the power of the nations, not the hollow threats and crying babies sitting in peace. And it is important that us, now that we open a new chapter in the space technology today, let our people understand that the technology in its essence is a peaceful technology. Even if you try to kamikaze your bird or your spaceship or your soul to the ground, it will not drive, it will not match. The reason for it is we don't talk about it in the future, we might teach it. So what we're going to see, we've seen the evolution of the peace as we wished it has started, and I thank the Chinese leadership for the wise move. And I was wondering when would this happen, and now it's become a talk. And very soon, with the wisdom and the financial strength of the Chinese government, the only countries which go on sanctions initially would be the United States by the look of it, and then I would like to see how they will take the sanctions. Trade sanctions, supply sanctions, oil sanctions, and if the oil to America stops through the sanctions, the nation will cripple. And we know that, we've seen it through 1972, and its situation is much worse than that time. And so the peace process has started in a way by balancing powers that the true world leaders have taken the position. And this is marvelous to see that China at last has taken the First Nation position. And we congratulate the leadership of President Xi for this action. This will bring us one step closer to peace, because it's not just financial sanctions. We give the full support and technology in the hand of the Chinese leadership, and this will allow them to enforce peace through peaceful manners of technology and independence from this what I call warmongering situation. I've been asking for this for a long time, for China to take the leadership, and we've seen that they have taken it. And this is the first initiative in guaranteeing the other nations that they might gain a loss because of this, guaranteeing that nobody will lose us, will isolate peace-mongering systems. And this is the beginning of peaceful motion, and this has been a wonderful news coming out of what we hear, sanctions against nations who create war. And this is the praise of all of you. You are wishing for peace. It's in the headlines and will become part of the international policy. I'm sure we'll see and hear more about it as China takes the true leadership, not the bankrupt nation of the United States trying to pretend to be as a big all in game. We saw this initially where last year President Xi dictated the trips of President Trump to Jerusalem and Vatican. And now we've seen his leadership in bringing and forcing Americans through sanctions which can bring on America, not on Korea, to push Americans to negotiate for peace, even though suddenly President changes in thoughts. Decisions made in Beijing and not in Washington anymore. And that's a massive, massive gain for the world peace. And I think in so many ways, all of us have to support, be there to support the sort of the, what we call the Chinese leadership that will carry on the same path. Any other question?
Questions maybe before we go here, Mr. Keshe. Let me see. In the live stream, there was a question about how did the Belgian court decide in May 25th? Is it now legal for Caroline and Mayran Keshe to act and help other people?
No, the position is last week's verdict was exactly how we wanted it. One point was dropped by the judge, and we still stand as the same, which allows us to go to the European Court. The next one is the highest court of Belgium now. If they would have changed anything in it, we would have had a problem, but because they kept it the same, now we're going for appeal. We have instructed our lawyers to appeal, and we release all the documents about the intimidation and murder and the killing of people in the court, which this is an intimidation by the Belgian government. It's a falsified, and there's enough evidence that bring the whole Belgian justice and government into a halt, because by international law, no police can ever go into court, which they did, they broke the law. No police officer can enforce and write evidence which they have written. The police has written evidence, not the people. And now we are submitting all the documents to the International Court of Justice, and at the same time as we go to the European Court and to what we call the highest court in Belgium. We need that now to be done. If the court in Brussels crushes the verdict, is a big tragedy for us. We hope they don't do, but if they do, then it gives us a better chance to take it directly into the European Court of Justice. If they sustain it, then we can appeal to the European Court and open the hand of the Belgian murder system. Unfortunately, as I said, there is now more evidence that Belgians are involved in murdering scientists and supporters of the scientists. But that we leave it is exactly what we wanted. They did not, the fear of the lawyers was that if they change it to a prison sentence, which the judge didn't see anything and dropped one of the claims, and now we are on target. We have already moved on, and I thank our lawyers team who very wisely kept the course, and now we are in for appeal. We hold on to it because the allegation of attempted fraud is by the police, and there is something which we did not release before. There is a summons which is in the background which the American government crushed because the Belgians were trying initially to come out as a terrorist. This original summons before this medical application was to be summoned as a Keshe Foundation and me as a terrorist, and the Americans crushed it. And so they went up with this. We have a path and all the confirmations. So as if you go back to some of my teaching, I said, since when a scientist become a terrorist? Because they tried it. Then they got kicked in the teeth so bad that now they went a year later finding this new way. So we have enough to take the Belgian government into European Court of Justice. And one of the first things we do, we'll freeze all the assets of the Belgian government outside and inside Belgium if we can. Freezing of their assets for the penalties and damages to the foundation will be filed in due course. And we thank the judge in the middle court for the verdict. We are on course, exactly where we wanted to be. The only problem would have been if they would have issued a prison sentence, which they haven't, which they agreed this is it, but we could not submit any evidence into this court. That's why it could not change. They just went on the balance of what it was, because this court was just appeal to hear, and they wouldn't accept any new evidence in a way. So, but they listen to the evidence, but they don't take it as part of it, but they made a judgment on what they was. Now, we are exactly on course we want to be. And we thank all the Keshe Foundation supporters. What I would like to ask the Keshe Foundation supporters who went to court in Holland and others, please write down your condition. We need it in writing and send it to the Keshe Foundation. That what and the police was in court and what they did. We need it in writing. Please send it to the webmaster at keshefoundation.com. Those of you from Belgium who went to court and they asked you in the court to show documents by the police and they took picture of it. Now we need a written evidence, please. Intimidation by the police has become job of third world nations, and Belgium is a third world nation. It's worse than anything else you can see, but that's their problem. We leave the animals to live in that nation. They deserve each other. What else? Any other question?
One from Piggy that maybe you can quickly answer. She says, I would like to learn more universal language like the hand signs Mr. Keshe has given before, so we can teach others. When we take to space, we need the understandings and communication tools. Thank you.
The hand sign still is for those who are in a matter state. How do you communicate with the soul which has no hands and no feet? We have to understand the interaction of the field of the souls. The way you see your mother, you see her smile and you see her laughter, or you see her talking to you. The universal language comes into operation now that we have developed your strength in understanding the operation of the soul, in how the two souls communicate and how you translate that emotion or the field. In a way, part of the, can I share screen? Maybe it's a part of, as I said, when we go to the new teaching, new knowledge comes up, so we share it. Okay, I'm going to put this aside. You see, if this is your soul, anyway, I need glue, I need to go thicker. Okay. When this is your soul, and this is the soul of your, let's say, mother, she doesn't exist. The transformation of the energy from the soul of the mother is to the soul of the man. And then vice versa. That's why you can talk to your mother. Then, in the process of the transformation, we have the brain of the man. Now, according to the strength which comes from the mother laughter or joy or whatever, our brain starts processing this here in different layers of brain. One part of the brain works through the physical matter conformation, which is us. And then there is another strength, which is the plasma at the level of the soul of the man, which I have to choose a color for you. You can see that's incoming from the mother. So our brain, as I said, now you understand why we have a physical and we have the soul of the cell or the entity. I know you don't like the yellow, you don't see it. So the physical part translates the laughter of the mother to the movement of the mouth. The soul emotional side sees the laughter as the happiness of the soul of the mother, as a giving them. We translate the knowledge according to confirmation that this strength is the mother. If I change that, in your dream there's a father too. Now this is his strength, is not the same as the mother. Because his essence of his soul, creation of it, has created different dimension, the strength soul. And your physicality knows this is the laughter of the mother, this is the laughter of the father. So when it comes to universal language, is understanding the communication between the soul of the entities, not the physicality. Because this soul has no physicality, so did the mother. How did you translate it to the movement of the lips, the laughter, or the anger of the father with the shouting? It's us that within the sphere, as we in space, we change our dimensions of thinking and work, and same as we do in the time of the sleep, more of the dimension of the soul takes over the operation of the cells than when it does in the physical time of awakeness. We switch over. We switch from physical matter condition into what you call the soul condition. And then that's how we remember who it was and how and who we spoke to. It's part of the operation, because the operation of the soul, when the physicality goes to sleep, increases, so you work on a different level. It's like changing from AM to FM or vice versa. One is for the physicality strength and one is for the soul strength. So when you go back to the teaching from the beginning, I always spoke about the soul of the body of the man, or the soul of the cell of the man. And so when we go to sleep, actually we don't go to sleep, because what we have done, I explained this before, some teachings, is when we are awake and when we are asleep, we still aware of both. But we are more relying to observe the physicality side, which is exists, not on the soul side. So even the daytime we walk, both work. The soul and the physical dimension of the soul, they both work continuously in touch and communicate. But because we are in a physical condition, we only take the physical side of it. So when we go to space, we learn to ignore the physical part, and then we see the soul of the entity, and it's the same. The dimension of the field of the brain of the man will work on the soul level of the man more than the physicality side of the man, physical structure of the brain. and then we just switch. It's like you learn a language, 2 different languages you switch. Then we look, this is what I say, we see the soul of the man. And sometimes we decide to ignore the condition of the soul because we prefer the physicality to stay as it is. So if you looked at the sign souls of how to communicate, if you find a soul which has no physicality at the strength of the man, but you know is there, is the mother. Do you see the mother with the hand and foot, or do you see the soul of the mother that converts it? Then we become alert to different emotions and feelings and understanding. In the depth of the space, we don't need that much variation as we have in the structure of the body of the man today, because we learn that the space is a peaceful place. So as a present, we see so many layers in the brain of the man to filter differ. In the space, we don't need that many. Just a few will do the same job, because the fear, the anger, the anxiety, and all that goes away. Because it doesn't exist. So now you have to learn how your soul works during the day and night, and move towards understanding that and signing an answer. It's good if you want to learn, what do you call it, the blind language or the deaf language or the sign language, but the soul of the man works on his strength according to what he receives and what gives. He doesn't need any hands. Now we moved into a new teaching. You can understand this very good. This is why, in a way, I said to Lisa, get another chair and see if we can transfer the emotions. You look at these things as something happened, but you have to look who brings them on. These are members of the Earth Council. And in a way, their souls guide them gradually into the position that they learn how they can help in place. And it's not done by somebody else who comes with this, it comes from the Universal Earth Councils. If you notice today, most of the questions come from members of the Universal Earth Council and Earth Councils. Because now they're getting involved. They want to understand how they can bring the next changes. Jalal, Moshbak. Support councils like Ruti and the others, and Earth Council, and Lisa, they're all sitting there to reset the structure. The structure moves to its next phase. Shall we call it a day? It's nearly 3 hours.
Sure, Mr. Keshe.
Thank you very much. Thank you indeed for today. I think what we call today is the 1st of June, 2nd of June, 1st of June. Is that correct?
It's
31st of May.
31st of May on Thursday here. Friday be the 1st of June, yes.
1st of June. So we move on to the next step, and we'll see what happens in the coming time. And we'll carry on. And hopefully the knowledge seekers who are working on the space dimension now, they know they have to have 2 systems, not 1. And those of you who work with a chair in the house, you need 2 chairs. Adam and Eve. Now create the Adam or create the Eve. Thank you very much. See you next week.
Great, thank you very, very much, Mr. Keshe, once again. And thanks to everybody for contributing today, and the questions and comments. And if anyone has any questions left over, bring them next week and we'll try to address them. Okay, we'll end the 226 Knowledge Seekers Workshop for Thursday, May 31st, 218. Thanks everybody, and thank you Flint for taking us out with some kind of mysterious video.
Hello. We are the Keshe Foundation. Our mission is to bring peace on Earth and join humanity with the universal community. We wish and work to bring man as equal to all beings in the universe. By teaching plasma science and technology equally to everyone, no one is left out and no one is abused due to lack of knowledge. By donating to us, you can help achieve this goal. keshefoundation.org/donate.
Plasma products now available at store.keshefoundation.org. Plasma liquid hand soap, antiseptic, moisturizing for well-being. One Soul Plasma T-shirt, balanced chakras with ancient and plasma technology. Visit store.keshefoundation.org for these and other plasma products.
The process of understanding is very simple. The process is, as I explained last time, I explained more in detail. We are created out of the rays within the center of the universe. In interaction and reduction in strength and division by the strength in certain strength fields, in collection of the totality of the expansion of the universe, some energies, some dynamic fields have come together. Over billions of years, these fields lead to the creation of what we call the sun. Where the plasma gathers together. The same process repeats again because the sun is the same as the energy center of the universe. Now, the heavier, the larger amount of the energy which is collected in this span of the universe, called the sun, that irradiates out, does the same thing again. radiates its fields out, and in interaction with itself, with the fields of itself, leads to creation of planet. In that process of the creation of planet, the same process happens again. In the interaction of the fields of the earth with its environment and cooling and exchange with the strength of the other things in the environment of the space of the solar system, leads to creation of man, cell, matter state. And that itself, in coming together and slowing down in certain ways, as we call, leads to another sun. We call the soul of the man. This is the truth about the life and creation of the man. But if the soul of the man can understand and absorb and be correct with his conduct, he can become the strength of the fields and carry the strength of the field of the planet which came to this creation. And if the soul can understand with the same process, can interact, can be correct, can absorb with itself the totality of the strength of what it needs, it shall become the sun. And then the same soul has the energy that it can absorb within the solar system, within the galaxy, shall become the center of the universe. Earth, we call it the rain, come from and goes back to. In the solar system, we call it planetary system. We come from the rays, we become the planet, and we go back to the mother. The same thing happens with the galaxies, with the solar systems, which they get absorbed back in and they chewed up back into the universe. The life, the process of existence in the universe is the same. It doesn't matter on what exchange and what extent. So, what is the man fighting for? Why do we fight for something which has come from the point of the creation, and in the process it goes back to the creation? The soul of the man, as the energy of the earth, gives the face of the man, the face of the earth, and that process is the same for the soul of the man. Our soul, in reduction in strength, in interaction with the emotion of the field of the environment, leads to manifestation of the existence of the man. But once it's completed, does it need the face? Or can it be and becomes free from it, what we call the soul of the man, be free and detached from its existence? Our soul is part of the process of the creation. The key to one question, who man shall be in the future, to be answered. As we saw the sun became the earth, and as we saw the earth became man's soul, what would be the destiny of the soul of the man now becomes free at the point of departure from physicality. Would it become the sun for creation of another life, or many lives, or correction of lives? This shall be, and this is how it happens. When you create a soul which is not correct, which is misconduct by itself, cannot give, you lead to the creation of this next cycle of creation, which has started the wrong way, the wrong strength. This is one thing the man has never understood. You become the creator of another universe, another cycle. And this is what you have to judge within the structure of the soul of the man. What would I like that cycle to be? In the physical life, we create children. In the dimension of the life of the soul of the man, what that man, what that soul will create. If man has thought up to now, that's it, my end, my point, when I die is finished, there's as much fallacy that when the sun is destroyed in any shape or form, there shall be nothing left. But we know the part of the sun becomes part of the galaxy and becomes part of new life. So shall be the soul of the man. The judgment of the man has to be according to what he sees the future his soul can conduct to be. The day of judgment is for the man, not in front of the Creator. That what my soul judges to be and what shall create. Man never understood and shall never understand till can solve this dilemma within itself. The reality is very, very, very real. And that is, as we've seen, the energy of the galaxy become the sun, the energy of the sun has become the earth, and the energy of the earth has become the soul of the man. So shall be the soul of the man, which is the energy itself, another cycle of life. How can you change when you don't understand? How can you change the process of understanding if you do not understand the process of the creation? Do we need to extend the understanding of the man that what is the future he brings? We care about our children, what education they get, what they wear, how happy they'll be, where they sleep. Now the man has to be careful and consider what life shall my soul create, because those are the children of your soul. As we see, the rays of the sun has become a planet and 7 billion children of it. 7 billion unlimited, which is growing. So the soul of the man will go through the same process. How many billions and subdivisions and sub-matter state of the physicality of the man your soul shall create? Would it be the soul of wars and conflict and forever killing? Or would it be the soul of this, let's say, solar system which is peaceful? This is the truth and the reality about the soul of the man. First of all, as I said many times recently, we never understood that the soul of the man is within the structure of the man. And now that we understood, we understand on departure from the physicality of the man, the same process will carry on as it did for a star, a planet. And the soul of the man becomes another energy source, a higher order, which itself leads to the creation. It becomes the star, it becomes the center of the new cycle of creation. This is what the human race has to understand. The cycle actually starts from the point of death and not finishes at the point of death. In so many ways, if one understands, is as the dusts, specks of dust came together to make the earth in the solar system, so has the specks of the atoms has come to be the creator of man. And the essence of the creation of the specks of dust on the solar system has led to the creation of man. So shall be the fields from the soul of the man which lead to creation of another cycle of life. What kind of life man would like to have to be created by his soul? This is the day of judgment. This is what man never understood. Now you have to understand. You have no choice. Up to today you were not aware of it. From today you are aware of it. You are responsible for it. Your conduct has to be to elevate your soul. That in elevating the soul, what you become the creator of stands correct in the conduct of the citizens. We don't give a fairy tale. This is the truth. But as you've seen, the process does not stop with one sun. The cycle carries on. It's very interesting in how humanity now knows in fact to handle the fact. It'll take decades for man to understand, and then you understand those who become the tools of war, the tools of conflict. They have less, they have nothing to start with. They have to become the dust in the solar systems of the others till the day they learn more, as they cannot create a new cycle through their own soul. This is the elevation of the soul of the man. To be part of the creation of a beautiful life for the next cycle. When you don't have it, you have to become another cell in the body of the structure of the bigger, for you to be just there that it can done when you could have been the soul of the man. They say, do not create fear. I give you the point of love for creation. If you cared about your children on this planet to have the best, your true children come out of your own soul in the coming time. How would you like to educate them? How would you like to be when you are in conflict with yourself and the cause of so much mayhem? This is the truth. And the man will take a long time to understand, as now that we understand the soul of the man is an operator for the creation of the future extent of the life of the man. Whatever is gathered by the soul at the end becomes his point of reference of his own creation of his own dimension. But the strangest thing is, what he creates from his soul shall become the creator of the other souls. This is the beauty about the creation, and one understands it, understands no limitation.